Since the dawn of time, man has been curious. And for almost as long, the Vibes Broadcast Network has sought the truth. Investigate, discuss, explore. Okay, maybe in other episodes, but this one is just listen to the vibes.
The views and opinions of our guests may not necessarily reflect those of the host or the Vibes Broadcast Network. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And I have here Mr. Hugh Newman. And although he doesn't really talk too much about aliens, he's on a little show called Ancient Aliens. I read in his bio, he's a megalithomaniac. I hope I said that right. An author, an explorer, a YouTuber, and we're just waiting for him to give us the cure to cancer, and I think he can call it quits after that. But no, seriously, Hugh, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, correct. Megalithomaniac. Yeah, I'm obsessed by kind of ancient sites, exploring, visiting as many as possible. I've written several books on the subject about stone circles and megaliths, but also about giants and their connection to these megalithic sites. And yeah, I've been at it for quite a long time. We run this conference every year in Glastonbury every May, called Megalithomania. The name really comes from a book by John Michel, who was like a genius writer and all things ancient mysteries, earth mysteries, and so forth. And yeah, we've been running that ever since. We invite all these speakers to that, and it kind of things have grown from there. Now I write books, we run tours, we explore, and yeah, we get around really. Yeah, it's a fascinating subject in my opinion.
So what got you fascinated with giants and things of that sort?
Yeah, there's a few weird sort of offshoots of the megaliths, but yeah, when I was kind of very interested in the ancient sites of North America, and we ran a conference out there up in New England, and back in like 2011, like 11 years ago, and I met a guy called Jim Vieira, who ended up becoming my co-author, and both him and I, and also a guy called Ross Hamilton, had been researching the fact not only do you get ancient sites in America, but lots of them you find reports of these giant burials between 7 foot and sort of 12 feet tall associated with these sites. And this always fascinated me. I always kind of wondered what was really going on. You know, how was this kind of connected? And it really grew from there. And we wrote this book called Giants on Record about the American giants and also the cover-up that took place. We did a TV show on history called Search for the Lost Giants that ran for like 6 episodes, and it got cancelled, partly because it was a bit controversial. We were criticizing major academic institutions.
Well, how dare you?
How dare us, yes. But we covered that in detail in the book, and then yeah, it kind of grew from there, sort of mixing the megaliths and the giants. And then with our recent book, The Giants of Stonehenge and Ancient Britain, which came out a couple of months ago, that is like really delving in to the mysteries of Britain, not just giants, not just megaliths, but I'm fascinated by trying to decode these giant myths and stories, because there's real information, there's real knowledge, geomantic, mathematical, astronomical wisdom is like part of the story of why these stories were maintained over such long periods of time. So I'm kind of fascinated by the mythology, but there's always some more depth to it and a reality to it which is often overlooked.
So when we're talking giants, how tall are we talking?
Well, we've got a few crazy ones, 18 feet, 21 feet tall. But generally, anything over 7 foot, we count as a giant. That's our rule. And generally, you know, in England and in all over Britain and America, we get a lot of them between 7 and 12 feet tall. A surprising amount around between 8 and 10 feet, and it's just a thing. I mean, it's not like it's not like we're just making it up. We're just like, creating these out of thin air. We have thousands of accounts in North America from academic institutions digging them up as well. And so, yes, it's just fascinating, but it's just all the associated subjects that come with it. And the fact that there's been a kind of, not a cover up really, more of a kind of series of agendas that didn't kind of fit with what was being discovered, so it was brushed under the carpet.
Mm. You know, I studied the Bible quite a bit when I was younger. And if you believe in the Bible, there are stories in there about giants. But why do you suppose we don't see giants now?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, like you say, the Bible is kind of one of the richest sources of this, especially when you're looking into the Old Testament, the Book of Enoch, and also the Book of Giants, of course, as well. It was part, linked with the Book of Enoch, and also like the Sumerian tablet decoding as well has uncovered a lot of stuff from that area, and yeah, and they talk about giants at length. The Nephilim, the Watchers, and so forth, and why they're not around now, because it just appears that the kind of standard sized human, the short people, just took them out basically. They were because they were often part of these kind of pagan tribes, or they were kind of elite groups that kind of got written out of society, especially in America, the 1500s and so forth, 1600s. They were like pretty much wiped out. And but there's accounts of them, explorers visiting America and Patagonia, southern tip of South America, and actually seeing live giants in the 1500s all the way up to the early 1900s, like 7-foot Osage warriors who were like kind of meeting them with the president and so forth. And so, yeah, so they were around for a while, but it's now become, just part of history.
I see that you're an explorer. Would you call yourself an archaeologist, or you just...
No, I'm not an archaeologist. No, I'm an independent kind of writer and explorer. I don't have the archaeological kind of qualification. However, I do call myself an antiquarian, which is an older term used in Britain quite a lot before archaeology was invented. It really is people who've got a passion for exploring and documenting and writing about these ancient sites. And so I put myself into that kind of realm rather than anything to do with archaeology.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the show, I mean, I know how Hollywood can be. They kind of overhype certain things. Do you find that they're doing that, or are they pretty much online with things that you've discovered?
You're talking about Ancient Aliens here, yeah? Yeah, Ancient Aliens, I like it. I mean, I have to be honest with you, I've been involved with it for 10 years, I think now. And they're very professional, and the subjects they cover, some of them are absolutely brilliant. I mean, people don't realize that they are serious researchers, the people who kind of work for the show. They're really dedicated to bringing kind of all the right stories together. Some of their stuff's really far out, as you know. A lot of it's had a lot of criticism. They do a lot of crazy subjects as well, kind of which are a bit off the cuff. People don't really like it too much. But from a megalithic perspective, they're really on it. I mean, they really understand what's going on, and they look at theories that get completely overlooked by academia. And this is why I kind of was very pleased to be involved, because it enables many subjects. We're talking like, what are classed in academic world as fringe subjects, alternative subjects like earth energies, like, pyramid power, things like this. And, archaeoastronomy, even they see it's quite controversial and things like this. But the show enables a voice to be heard for non-archaeologists in a very mainstream way, and because it really has become mainstream now. So I've got a lot of respect, I think a lot of credit needs to go to the producers of the show for like bringing out lots of information, researchers who don't often get a voice, and theories that are often completely ignored or overlooked.
Now, do you feel that the giants had something to do with the building of the pyramids and, say, a structure like Stonehenge?
Well, yeah, you get so many legends, I mean, and myths encoded into the kind of landscape, really, and into the sites, that it would certainly appear so. One of the things, like even the pyramids of Giza and Dashur and things like that, you look at these 1,000-year-old legends, these from the Arabian Nights, all these different legends which were written down and recorded, and they clearly state that specific named giants from the kingdom of Ad, which is probably Iraq or somewhere, made their way over to, Egypt, Middle East, that part of the world, and constructed the pyramids using giants to do it. And so many of these rulers and leaders were giants themselves, and there was a lineage of them that went all the way back through the biblical kind of patriarchs and so forth, who were often always classed as giants as well. We have the same thing in Britain. Stonehenge, the earliest name for Stonehenge is the Giant's Dance. That's the first recorded name. That's over 1,000 years. That was recorded by Geoffrey of Monmouth. And we have legends of giants bringing the stones from Africa, interestingly, Pyramid Land, to Ireland, where they constructed Stonehenge originally. And then over to, Merlin brought the stones over to where they are now, on Salisbury Plain. And so you have all, and it became known as the Giant's Dance. We have other legends. We have, called the Kangik giants, who were said to have built Stonehenge. We have other stories. We actually have actual skeletons being found near Stonehenge. One of them was 9'4", another one was 14'10". The latter one was documented by very well-known scholars in the early 1500s. And so, you have to take this on board, that there might be some reality to these myths.
Have you studied any on Easter Island?
Yeah, I've been to Easter Island and found some interesting stuff there, because there's a story there of, I believe, I forget when it was when the Dutch first went over there, I think. So it must have been, 1600s, 1700s perhaps. And the stories state that, this is recorded in the diaries, the journals of the explorers, I think, at the time, that the people of the island were so tall that they could literally walk between their legs. And there's stories of bones and skeletons being found in the area. And all through the Pacific, all the way down to Patagonia, you have this kind of, almost like a kind of coastal culture of these redheads, often with elongated skulls, or giants.
Now, what do you think is the purpose of these structures? And I feel like I get contradicting debates on, why are these things here, like the pyramids? Why is Stonehenge here? What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's a kind of big question. There's a lot. I mean, to me, there's multiple purposes depending on different, styles, different places and things like this. But fundamentally, they're often astronomical observatories. That's number one. They're often also earth energy kind of accumulators, where they're working to enhance the landscape, to enhance consciousness, to help with agriculture and things like this. They're calendars, linked with both of these things. And they're memory spaces where when you move from hunter gathering to building constructions and a sedentary lifestyle and so forth, you're bringing all the knowledge of the land into the stone structures as well. Also, they are kind of geodetic points on a great survey across various lands, and they are also there as a kind of an impression and a kind of record of who built them and their level of consciousness at the time. And they also encode very advanced geometry, mathematics, and the astronomy and so forth. So they're like knowledge. They're like just knowledge in stone. And it's only those who reach that level of understanding and consciousness and intellect can actually decode them and understand them. And I think that was part of their purpose. They were like there to test future generations and to remind future generations that this is where we were at this time. Where are you at, kind of thing. And I think that's part of their kind of purpose. But it's like the monolith, isn't it, in like 2001: A Space Odyssey, where it kind of triggers, it triggers you to think and like be challenged and question everything. And I think these are part of that.
Do you study ley lines?
Yes. Certainly ley lines. It's like the geodetic kind of connection where they're very much aligned, these sites, very specifically in certain orientations to certain other sites. And certainly ley lines are part of this. Yeah.
You think that triggers a lot of paranormal activity?
Yes, it does. Yeah. I mean, this is, yeah, I've dealt with quite a bit of paranormal activity actually being near Stonehenge. You'd be surprised, virtually on a burial ground here, and so that doesn't help. But yeah, I mean, one of the fascinating things about ley lines, if people aren't sure, I'll just explain. If people aren't sure what ley lines are, they're like alignments of ancient sites in a dead straight line over any distance. It can be about 4 or 5 or more sites. It has to be minimum of 4. That's the Alfred Watkins terminology and classification. When he discovered these or rediscovered them back in the 1920s. And really, they're just alignments of sites, but there's lots of other things have now become associated with them, which are connected. We have this tradition. You're talking about like paranormal stuff relating to ley lines, where you have this very widespread traditions linking lines between ancient sites of where spirits or shamans would travel through, like these straight line paths, these dream paths or spirit paths or death roads and things like this. And this is like how you get access to the other world. You utilize the ancient sites and the ley lines that connect them up. It's like literally the doorway to the kind of realm of the dead or the spirit world, or possibly other dimensions, because they're often related to the fairy realm as well, the elemental realm, which is, again, has these associations of paranormal activity, strange lights that are seen. And fairies, again, often move in dead straight lines, following the same paths between ancient sites. In Ireland, many of the sites are called fairy sites or fairy forts, things like this. So there's certainly this element as well. But one of the, it was Paul Devereux who kind of put together all these ideas about spirit paths, because you start looking into that and you realize that's kind of, that's the unseen part of these ancient sites. We see the physical reality, but we don't see what's really going on, like behind the scenes, if you like. And this is part of that.
Do you entertain the idea that, say, like ghosts and aliens and cryptids and all those have something in common? Because I've heard people talk about it, where they'll have UFO sightings, but they'll have a lot of sightings of cryptids and spirits and things. It's a curiosity of mine.
No, for sure. Yeah, it kind of fascinates me. There's something that's linked with all this, really. I mean, I don't know if you know the book Daemonic Reality by Patrick Harper, which is a genius book. I do recommend it. When it's like, it relates to UFOs, crop circles, even giants, but the elemental realm, paranormal activity, strange lights. It's all in this realm which is just beyond our grasp. Like with UFOs, it's been around for so long. We almost get to this point where we're kind of almost about to understand the phenomenon, and then it just jumps to this other level of complexity. And what are people really seeing is consciousness getting affected by going on to these, ley lines or in these ancient sites or part of the land that has high magnetism or something like this. And I think it's the same with like the kind of Sasquatch Bigfoot thing as well. It's kind of related to that, because it seems almost like they're elementals, but giant hairy ones.
Right.
And like, there's an element, there's part of that which is beyond physical reality. It's not all, I mean, there might be giant beasts roaming the land, quite possibly. There's no, who knows? There's been reports of them all over the place, even in Britain, incidentally, as well. And so, what's going on here? And why is it when people shoot at Bigfoot, he doesn't get hurt and he continues running, things like that? There's no blood, things like that. You get the footprints, obviously, but so there's some strange, I mean, there's a lot of people have related that to UFO sightings as well, which I find quite odd. They're in the same place, or strange lights as these Bigfoot, and I'm like, what the hell? So to me, there's an elemental part of it. There's like a kind of trickster like element. There's a kind of fairy kind of element where they're kind of they're trying to trick you, they're trying to confuse you. There's a sort of, it's this otherworldly kind of thing, out of time, out of space, which is we get rare glimpses on when we have kind of revelations or affected a consciousness by the energies there.
Well, I don't want to dismiss cryptids, but I still find it really hard to believe in. I guess because I've never seen one. I'm a paranormal investigator, but I haven't done anything like, looking for UFOs or for Bigfoot. I do know someone that is in one of those groups that go looking for Bigfoot, and I'd like to go with them. They've invited me, but they talk about shapeshifters and or other dimensional. I can probably go along with the interdimensional kind of thing, because I think that's where a lot of the spirits that we see come from. But I mean, how in the world would a body be able to change from one thing to another? You know what I mean? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, with there's so many of these cryptids as well. I mean, we also get black shuck, like giant dogs. We get mystery big cats here as well, things like that. But yeah, I mean, unless people were just accidentally ingested a bunch of mushrooms and they think they saw that, there is that to consider. So there's, you got to kind of keep that kind of thing in mind. But I mean, shamans. I mean, you look at the traditions of shamans. Some of the things that have been witnessed in, like, there's a brilliant researcher who died a while back called Vine Deloria Jr. And he wrote this book on the supernatural side of Native Americans, and I forget the name of the book. I've got a copy of it here somewhere. And he was actually a big inspiration for our book on the giants of America, because he was recording all these ancient myths, talking about them, going back thousands of years. But he witnessed it, or people that he got records of, like, we're talking about English European people going over to North America, was witnessing things happen, like people changing form physically. It looked like they were what he saw, like, in one moment, he said they could almost control time. And so this guy, this Native American chief, this priestly elder kind of thing, put a load of soil in his hand and put a flower seed in his hand, and within 1 minute the flower had grown and bloomed fully, and things like this. So they were witnessing strange things like this actually occurring. So if you've got a high level shaman or magician or sorcerer, these kind of things appear to be possible. And so and one of the things we actually found in our giant research is that there's a lot of magic encoded into these sites. There's a lot of magic and sorcery, probably to create the sites as well. They probably use this kind of thing. For example, in one of the chapters in our books about Stonehenge is called Sowers of Thunder. It talks about this tradition where if you disturb a giant's grave, then what happens is a giant storm of thunder would occur, like instantly, as soon as you put a kind of shovel into the earth. And this happened over and over again, almost like there was a spell placed upon the sites. Oh, wow. And we have a huge amount of accounts of this. We have people who were going into Silbury Hill and Avebury, and there was like an earthquake happened when the thunder started coming, things like this. And it was they were so outrageous and powerful that people just assumed there must have been spells put there by the giants. We have the same, got the curses of ancient Egypt, Tutankhamun, all this kind of stuff. We have curses that have been recorded like this in Nam Madol in Micronesia, where people died after they tried to dig graves of giant kings and different stories. So you've got, you're looking at shape-shifting. I mean, if they're capable of doing any of these kind of things, then shape-shifting might be one of the things they were doing.
So I wonder how they could manipulate like things like time. But you've got scientists that, of course, at one time they would have been looked at like they're nuts if they even thought about looking into any of this stuff. But I think we've come to a point where people are looking for answers. Tell me, if there's a scientific reason why such and such happened, then let's find out what it is. I don't know if you ever watched Ghost Hunters, but there was an episode where they had one of those cameras that can see the aura around you. And this guy was a psychic. And while he was talking to the person next to him, you could see the light kind of going over and mixing with the other guy's aura. And that's how he was able to tap into his brain and see these things. Why can't they do stuff like that? Are they still afraid of ridicule?
Yeah, I'm sure privately they do all sorts. I think that's the kind of thing, but because of fear of the ridicule, maybe. But I mean, I'm fascinated by this side of things.
Right.
And read a few kind of odd experiences here and there, which kind of made me go, "Whoa, okay, there's something to this." There's some very, very powerful people, and there's places that have like something going on there which you
Mm.
can't explain, but it's real. To you're witnessing stuff happen, kind of thing. I mean, I've witnessed all sorts going on, poltergeists, strange lights, all this kind of thing. And I don't really talk about it too much, to be honest with you, because people just don't believe you. It's like,
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're gonna have your skeptics out there.
yeah,
But even though I am a paranormal investigator, I'm still very skeptic about the things that I see. But if I hadn't seen it from my own eyes, then I wouldn't even entertain the idea that these things were possible. But do you, not that it should probably matter to you, but do you have people kind of dismiss you as a kook because of the things you believe in?
absolutely. Oh yeah. Christ. I mean, the Giants thing is a perfect one. I mean, especially when our first book came out, coinciding with the TV show, we were like inundated with kind of very, very famous skeptics just trying to destroy us, just going through each page of our book, every minute of every episode. And we thoroughly enjoyed it, to be honest with you. We did. We just, I mean, me and Jim Vieira, my co-author, we don't really, we're not fussed really what anyone thinks or says. We're just going to get on with it.
Right.
And we're not academic. We're not academic as such, although we've both got college degrees and done years of education and things like that, but just not in archaeology. And so we really don't care. Number one, what people think, and number two, we're very diligent. We're very we put our sensible hat on when we're writing and researching, and we debunk our own accounts.
Yeah.
We dig into our own giant accounts and we debunk them, and we've debunked some very famous ones, and it's upset many of our colleagues who've been promoting these accounts as real for many years, and we just openly, no, actually we were wrong, this is actually a fake, even though in our previous lectures we were saying, yeah, this is real. And so we debunk ourselves, shall you say, and we don't care. We're just going to crack on with that, because that, in a way, I think that is technically scientific, where you kind of find your own mistakes, correct them, and just keep following, seeking the truth rather than what's convenient and what sounds cool. And I think you've got to do that, from your own perspectives as well.
I mean, don't you think that's part of science, is asking these questions and finding out answers? I would believe so.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is one of the things, that's kind of what's frustrating when you start, it's like, I don't know why the academics can't look into the giants. None of them will, just us independents kind of thing. And it's like with ancient sites, many of these academics, the archaeologists at the sites, absolutely hate us because we've written books, we've been on ancient aliens, this, that, and the other, talking about our ideas of what we think's going on, and how we think things align astronomically and so forth. And it's amazing how upset they get about that. Absolutely amazing. And respect to all the work they do. They're the ones spending all the money and time, effort, digging up the site, analyzing all the materials, dating it, all the things like that. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have anything to work on. So so thankfully, they do a great job, but at the same time, they also try and discredit anyone who's got any different ideas. And I think that's a mistake. I think this needs to be multidisciplinary. It needs to be different angles. This is what we do at our conference. That's actually why we founded the Megalithomaniac conference, is to bring archaeologists and anthropologists in on the same stage as people like, independent, doing their own thing, come up with their own theories, independent, like amateur archaeoastronomers, people who do dowsing and earth energies and things like this, and we bring them all together. And we've got to a point now at the conference where the archaeologists now want to come because they kind of enjoy it, they kind of find it fun, and all the very alternative people are now starting to appreciate archaeology more. you know, and how difficult it is and how challenging it is. And there's a kind of coming together, which is the purpose of why we set up the conference in the first place. You know, that's what we do on our tours as well. Sometimes we have archaeologists join us on tours, you know, things like that, along with alternative heads, and it ends up being really, really interesting because there's, you know, this is the way it should be. It should be multidisciplinary. It should be different people with different skills being able to come in, study like things like the acoustics, study the energies, study the astronomy without being ridiculed. I mean, they don't have to be an archaeologist to do that. Why do they have to know how to dig things up, study astronomy, you know, and things? So there's so we feel quite strongly about that. But it's also got me personally and my co-author and my partner JJ, who's a researcher, to kind of get a bit more sensible, to like, you know, really listen to what the archaeologists are saying and what they're finding and things like this, but, you know, keep an open mind with it.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I've actually had people get nasty with me because of evidence that I'll put out on social media or something. I put it out there because I want to see if anybody has their own opinion of what they're seeing. And I very rarely put anything up because I'm so skeptical of everything we get. But do you ever get people get nasty with you?
Yeah. Well, yeah. But yeah, we just like, you know, you're a moron, bugger off, you know, just like simple as that. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, yeah, I mean, I've got a pretty thick skin and I'll give as good as I get. And a lot of these people have learned that, especially on social media. They start, you know, unnecessarily kind of if they're being nasty for no real reason. If they got a valid point, you know, we'll give them a voice, but not if they're just being nasty, just, you know.
Or can we just have a discussion, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think it's just the problem I've got as well, which I find with we've actually had physical run-ins with archaeologists who started yelling at us at certain sites, trying to get us out of the site. And we're just like, hang on a sec, we can come here if we want. We bought a ticket, you know, literally getting harassed and attacked, you know, shouting at us, you know, literally barging into us at times. It's really funny. Where I'm not going to name names or sites, but they know who they are. I doubt they'll be watching this anyway. So, but if they do, you know, it's like hopefully they've kind of grown up a bit and realized that, you know, we're all humans. We've all got a similar level of intelligence and understanding of certain things. So why do they feel there's only one authority when it comes to certain sites, you know, especially megalithic sites, things like that? And I think, you know, and again, this is what I mean. This is why the multidisciplinary thing is vitally important.
Yeah. Now, have you personally found any evidence that kind of supported the theories that you had that kind of, I don't know, maybe blew some people's minds?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's an interesting site in southeast Turkey. My partner and I recently visited, called Karahan Tepe. This is the sister site to Göbekli Tepe, the much more famous site in southeast Turkey. And we witnessed this winter solstice alignment take place, where the sun would rise and shine through this kind of portal stone, and illuminate this head that's sticking out the side of one of the enclosures. And it's clearly a winter solstice alignment. You know, we were the first people to probably see that in like 9,000 years. The site's 11,600 years old or so, and they've only just uncovered it. And but by doing that, we upset the archaeologists and the people there, because we discovered it, you know. And so you run into things like that. You come up with an idea, like JJ Ainsworth and myself, when we witnessed this thing, did that, you know, okay, that kind of proves there was archaeoastronomy at this particular site. So that could apply. That means they were doing it that far back, which is kind of like a revelation in some sense. So yeah, there's all sorts. I mean, we found that really interesting. When we were involved in when I was at Tiwanaku in Bolivia, I discovered this lost statue that had been buried. I spent like a week there. Me and JJ stayed at this horrific hotel, and actually in the village, the best hotel in the village it was. And I found this statue, and like, you know, and I I did a whole thing about it. I wrote about it. I sent it out to people, completely ignored. And like, and the academic would say, oh, they found it. But, before that, even though it was completely buried, it just happened to be someone was cutting the grass on this private bit of land near the site at the time, which had never been cut. It was like sorting out this field. And so I think, little things like that. You do find certain things on your journeys. We often discover things, especially when we do tours. Actually, we find our groups, they spot things that no one's ever noticed before, and like, it's quite fun when they do it, because they like feel kind of, something that they're kind of involved in, just discovery, things like that.
Is there one specific thing that would be the top thing you want to prove, that kind of be your mark in this world?
There's not one thing really. I mean, one of the things I think is, it's a couple of things. One of them is, I'm fascinated by the idea that these sites were manipulators and controllers of earth energy. Something I've been fascinated with for years. I've written about it, and there's been quite a lot of scientific research done on this now, but I just want that to be recognized, that that's a reality, that we're not just talking about fluffy hippie energies where you can go there and feel nice. We're talking about serious scientific creation of sites with this understanding as they were building them, to manipulate the energies to affect consciousness in a kind of almost like a religious or shamanic way. But the same energy also enhances and charges up seeds, and also creates this field of like kind of harmony in a certain space, using the energies, but also using geometry and mathematical formulas in the creation of sites. And I think that side of things is often ignored, even though cathedrals are known to have these effects and people have talked about that. So why not these ancient sites as well? And so I think to have that, I'm not saying I discovered that or anything, but to have that recognized, I think is very important, that these they have a purpose beyond just a temple or just a kind of like a gathering place and things like that. There's something else profound going on at these places, which is to do with consciousness and also fertility, which are vital. Fertility, without that we won't survive, as a human, or growing our crops, especially in ancient times where we didn't have kind of supermarkets and things like that. So I think that kind of thing would fascinate me. The other thing is, the giants is an obvious one as well. I wish there was more proper research from academics done into that. And also I'm very interested in measurement systems of the ancients, and you can actually decode places and work out who may have been involved in the construction by knowing exactly which types of measurements were used, because only certain cultures use certain measurements at certain times. It's very specific, if you know what you're looking for. And I think that, to me, this is the geometry and the measurements are really the fundamental universal language which echoes through time. I think if you can record enough information using these principles, you can talk to people in the future without any worries about language or etchings or hieroglyphs not being decoded properly, because you're using the fundamental universal language which is present everywhere in the universe.
Okay. Is there like this one person that's like the go-to or the godfather of of what y'all do?
Yes, this is John Michel. He died in 2009. It's actually his birthday today.
Wow.
Just realized, and yes, it's his birthday today. For people who are big up to John Michel in the other world, he was our mentor. He taught me a lot. He wrote amazing amount of books. The few over Atlantis. He wrote the Megalithomaniac book, Old Stones of Land's End, various others. He did the first proper book on ancient metrology, the measurements. And he was the founder, with myself and John Martin and Gareth Mills, of the Megalithomaniac conference in Glastonbury. He was around in Glastonbury at the time, back in the 2000s. And so, yeah, he's a big inspiration. I do recommend people check out his books. I mean, they're really important. A lot of people don't realize he came up with many of these ideas we've been talking about, like the acoustics, the geometry, the mathematics, the earth energies, the ley lines. He popularized this in his book, The View Over Atlantis, which came out in 1969. And this whole movement, this Earth Mysteries movement, emerged from him. And so I really think people should check it. He wrote, he even wrote a book called Who Wrote Shakespeare, and like did this whole investigation into that, which is mind blowing, probably correct as well. He wrote books about geometry and various other things. So yes, he's the kind of go-to guy. Another very popular guy who's been a big inspiration for a lot of people, including myself, is Graham Hancock. I think you're probably aware of his work, Fingerprints of the Gods and so forth. He, again, in the 90s, he kind of took this to another level and kind of cracked into the mainstream with the study of archaeoastronomy, evidence of advanced ancient civilization, stone work, stone cutting techniques, and so forth. So I think he's another one as well who's way up there.
Did you study on Atlantis as well?
I'm not really an Atlantologist, but I do believe there was a super ancient civilization, very advanced. This is kind of like the whole kind of thing we get with Göbekli Tepe. It's the same kind of era. But my co-author, Jim Vieira, he loves Atlantis. He'll fight to the death to prove it exists. So if you want to get a good story on Atlantis, a good hook on that, invite Jim Vieira on the show.
I would love to find out that was for real.
There's tons of theories, aren't there? I mean,
oh yeah.
God, I think there's been more books written on Atlantis than any other subject in history. I think that, and yet it's never been found. And so that's pretty compelling in itself. And they're still coming out today. People are still writing books on Atlantis. So, but I think, to me, I personally think The View Over Atlantis was written by John Michel, but he didn't actually talk about Atlantis. He talked about the potential influence that people like Plato wrote about that echoed into other civilizations in prehistoric times, like we mentioned, the geometry, the mathematics, the ley lines, the harmony, and things like this. And so there's kind of like a shadow, like a memory of this advanced civilization, which people think is Atlantis. But also you look at sites like Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe, and they are from that exact era. And so they're the things to be looking at, because they're actually from that time when Atlantis was said to have existed.
Now, when what you do, and I'm sure it takes up a lot of your money, is there somewhere that somebody could contribute to the cause?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, we're on Patreon, so people can just search for Megalithomaniac on there. Yeah, I mean, we are completely self-funded. We don't have any kind of sponsors or anything like that. We will happily accept some, of course. We're not going to turn away, because I do this full time now. So does my partner. We focus entirely on the writing, the research, the exploring, producing the conferences, but we also run tours as well, which helps fund the explorations. So we have many guests from all over the world joining us, and they pay to come on a tour, so that helps us immensely. Wow. And that enables us to get to these places, and we stay at places afterwards, and we do our research and things like that. But yeah, if people do want to help us out, we're all up for that. We're on Patreon. They can just find Megalithomania, and yeah, for sure, that'd be most nice.
Well, if you don't mind, when we get done, if you'll send me over all the links to everything, I'll be glad to put it in the description and in our social media. But you have a YouTube channel as well, right?
Yeah, we run a YouTube channel. That's Megalithomania UK. That's it's not just UK though, really. That's we have over 900 videos on there now. We put everything up. I mean, we have lectures, more like conferences. We have, when we go traveling, we make videos of that. We do interviews similar to this with specialist people who've done certain research or written certain books, because we feel it's important. And yeah, we've got like 120,000 subscribers, so wow, it's fairly popular. People do like it. And yeah, and that's one of our main things we do, really, is to produce the videos, because I got trained in video production at college and stuff like that, so I'm kind of quite adept at doing that kind of stuff, and filming and so forth. So yes, we quite enjoy that side of things. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I encourage anybody that's watching this or listening to this, go to their YouTube channel. I will put the link to it in the description. So click on it, subscribe, help them out. And what about social media? Where can everybody find you?
Sure, yeah. I mean, if they just type in Megalithomania, they'll find us all over the place. We got a website, megalithomania.co.uk. We've got all over Facebook and things like that. People search for me, just Hugh Newman, that they'll find me in various places. I've got a little website, which is kind of a page on the back end of the Megalithomania website. And yeah, I'm also on things like Instagram and Twitter and usual stuff. I'm taking less and less time on these things because we want to focus on writing our kind of books, things like that, and exploring and so forth. But yeah, we do have a bit of fun on there as well if we're back home for a few days or weeks here and there.
Yeah, and by the way, if anybody looks up Hugh Newman, there's also another one. I believe he's an author as well, but I think he's into bugs and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's L. Hugh Newman.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. He's not around anymore. He was the butterfly guy. He was like, funnily enough, I've got a funny story. One of my mentors who's co-authored books with John Michelle is called Robin Heath, and he's a big influence on me. People go to our YouTube channel or our website, there's loads of stuff about Robin Heath. He's done some amazing books on Stonehenge and the metrology and things like this and the astronomy. And he, when he was a kid, used to be obsessed by butterflies, and his hero was L. Hugh Newman. So he was quite surprised when he met me, and I had the same name as his childhood kind of butterfly hero. So that was quite funny.
Do you have any other funny stories you could share about the things you do?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, oh God, yeah, I've got quite a few strange things have happened. Yeah, I mean, we've had a few weird experiences, I'll tell you that. There was oh my God, I don't know if I should say that. As it's John Michelle's birthday, I'm going to say this, but he won't mind. He'll like this. This is like, so there was this conference down in Brighton, and John Michelle, Robin Heath, myself, my friend Stuart Mason, and a few other speakers were speaking. This was back in like 2006 or something. And it was part of this group called the Antiquarian Society that I was a member of. John Michelle became an honorary kind of member of it as well, which he presented a kind of paperwork, a little kind of plaque for him. He came down to this conference, and after the conference we had a great time at the event, and then we went into this large sort of like circular glass restaurant on the beach in the beautiful town of Brighton. And there's only like 10 people in there, there's all this staff. We sit down at this long table, we take over the whole table in the middle of the restaurant. And he's just doing something under the table. We're like, what's he up to? And then the next thing he knows, he pulls out this giant reefer and lights it up. And it's like this long in the middle of this restaurant. It's a no smoking restaurant. Smoking is banned in Britain. You can't smoke anywhere. And he just smokes it, and it stinks, smoke going everywhere. All the other customers are kind of looking around. The staff are all looking around, wondering what to do, because John Michelle is this tweed jacket, cravat, really smart old gentleman in his 70s, and he's the one with the thing. And so they almost dang go up to him and question him. And then the next thing he knows, he's passing it to everybody under the table, looking, and they're all kind of, like this kind of thing. So the fact that he got away with it, that no one dared question him. The whole place stunk. It was full of smoke. It's hilarious. So big up to John Michelle for that. Never forget that.
Well, before we end, is there anything inspiring that you could share with the audience that might help them with whatever endeavors they may have?
Sure. I think when it comes to like getting in touch with the ancient sites, I think is really important for people. It changed my world really when I started connecting, actually, because you realize that the people who, if we want to connect with our ancestors, these are our relatives, these are our family building these sites, distant past, then it's one of the places you can kind of connect to like the ancestors as such. And I think people don't kind of feel they need that, and I think that's why people without subconsciously visit the sites. They're not going just to be impressed. They're going because they feel like there's something, either a past life or an ancestral thing, to do with these sites. And I think people often travel hundreds of miles to visit one site. Well, actually, I recommend people look for sites in their local landscape, hidden sites that maybe you haven't even heard of. Because I've talked to a lot of people over the years, and they don't even know there's a major standing stone or a dolmen or something within 400 yards of their house, you know, things like this. And I think stuff like this, you know, it's worth investigating your local history and finding what's going on right on your doorstep, because you even find the stuff happen on your, it might be on your property. It might be, they might have dug up a 10-foot skeleton 60 yards from your house, you know, and things like this. You just don't know. And so there's these sites aren't just in specific places like Wiltshire or the pyramids, they're everywhere. Britain, for instance, is covered, you know, every inch of land has some kind of sacredness to it, some kind of ancient site, which is was built for many of the purposes we've been discussing in this chat. And so yeah, I think I recommend people check out and look into what's going on either locally or from where they're from.
If I could add a little bit to that, if you know any older generation that you can get some great stories from, I recommend you go record those stories, because once they're gone, a lot of those stories die with them.
Yeah.
So do that. There's plenty of stuff that's around you that you find that, like you said, it's going to be fascinating. That's why I love history. That's my thing, is history.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's one of the things. Some of our best resources have come from people who've taken the bother to go and collect stuff from these elders of these villages and towns, and Native American stuff as well, but also in Britain. And if it wasn't for them, then we wouldn't know half of what we know. So it's like, you know, and also digging into the old records, like the old journals, the town and county histories, because stuff is not, you know, a lot of stuff isn't available online. It just isn't, you know. And like some of our best research is like, you know, 50% of it is not online. You know, you have to dig out these old books, these obscure academic journals that no one's even looked at for 50 years and things like that. So yeah, it's amazing what you can find in a pit, and there's still much to be discovered, whether it's under the ground or whether it's hidden away in libraries.
So can we look forward to seeing you in future episodes of Ancient Aliens?
Yeah, I've been recording some I think a couple of months ago. So yeah, so you're going to see me on them, I think, if they edit me in, hopefully. But yeah, and there's and I was actually involved in quite a few shows. They've been doing it over the last 6 months on and off, I think. So we've been going down to London and filming with them. A couple of years ago, we went over to Peru and North America, did some filming there with them. They've already come out, I think, those episodes. So yeah, so we've got a lot more coming out. There's also a show called Unexplained with William Shatner, which I'm on. I'm being interviewed in the next couple of weeks. More so on Gaia TV on the Ancient Civilizations new season. And so yeah, and if people, you know, can't see me on TV, we also do the conference in Glastonbury, England. That's on the 7th and 8th of May. And hopefully this year we're going to be getting out and about a bit more. And there's also a big event, people into Ancient Aliens specifically. And I'm not organizing this, but I'm speaking there. It's called Chariots of the Gods event in Blackpool at the end of June, last weekend in June, I think 25th, 26th, something like that. And Eric von Daniken and Giorgio and all these people of Ancient Aliens are going to be there as well.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate your time, man. If you want to come back and talk about anything in the future, please let me know. I'd love to have you back on.
No, I appreciate it. It's been really cool. Thanks.
And like I said, I will have all the links up in the description. So if you want to check any of this out, or you want to help, please go to their Patreon and support them. And so I'm going to say goodbye to you and to everyone out there. If you're new to the channel, thank you for stopping by. Please subscribe. Those of you who are regulars, thank you for your support. And until the next one, please, everyone, take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts. And on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network